He thought it would be one song. One simple dance. One small act of kindness for an elderly woman sitting alone in a quiet corner of a hospital ballroom. He had no idea that those few minutes would change the way he saw people, loneliness, and kindness forever. Before we begin, subscribe to Kindness Library, like this video, and leave a comment telling us where you are watching from. Your support helps us share more stories that remind us how powerful one small act of kindness can be. The hospital had organized a small evening celebration for its patients and their families. Soft music played through the speakers, people talked over cups of coffee, and a few couples slowly moved across the polished floor. Daniel had come straight from work to visit his mother. He was tired, still wearing his dark work shirt, and honestly, he was thinking more about getting home than attending a dance. Then he noticed a young nurse standing beside an elderly woman. The nurse looked nervous. She walked toward Daniel and quietly asked, "Would you dance with my grandma?" Daniel looked behind him, thinking she was speaking to someone else. "Me?" The nurse smiled. "Yes. Please." Daniel glanced at the elderly woman. She was sitting in a wheelchair near the edge of the room. Her silver hair was carefully brushed, and she wore a pale blue dress. Her hands rested quietly in her lap. "She used to dance with my grandpa," the nurse explained. "He passed away 2 years ago. She hasn't danced since." Daniel hesitated. "I don't really dance." The nurse gave a small laugh. "Neither does she anymore." Daniel looked at the woman again. She was watching the dancers, but there was sadness in her eyes. He finally smiled. "Okay. One song." The nurse's face immediately softened with relief. Daniel walked over and held out his hand. "Would you like to dance?" The elderly woman looked surprised. Then she smiled. "I thought nobody would ask." Daniel gently helped her stand. She held onto his arm, and together they slowly moved onto the dance floor. The music was soft and slow. At first, Daniel felt awkward. He had no idea what he was doing. He stepped on his own shoe and almost lost his balance. The woman laughed. "You're not much of a dancer." Daniel laughed too. "I warned you." For the first time that evening, her eyes seemed to brighten. "My name is Margaret," she said. "I'm Daniel. My husband used to dance terribly too." Daniel smiled. "Then I guess I'm in good company." Margaret laughed again. The song ended. Daniel looked toward the nurse, expecting to return to his seat. But Margaret didn't let go of his hand. "Could we stay for another?" Daniel looked at her. Then he nodded. "Of course." The next song began. This time, Margaret moved with more confidence. She told Daniel about her husband, Frank. She told him how they met at a diner when she was 19. She told him how Frank proposed after only 6 months. "He said he knew I was the one because I stole his French fries," she said. Daniel laughed. "You stole his fries?" "Every time." For the next hour, Daniel listened to stories he had never heard before. Margaret talked about raising 3 children, working at a school, traveling across the country, and losing friends along the way. Then her voice became quieter. "People think old people don't need company," she said. "They think we're used to being alone." Daniel didn't know what to say. So he simply held her hand. "I don't think anyone should have to feel alone." Margaret looked at him. "You're a good man, Daniel." He shook his head. "I only danced with you." Margaret smiled. "Sometimes that's enough." Later that night, the nurse approached Daniel with tears in her eyes. "I've never seen Grandma smile like this since Grandpa died." Daniel looked toward Margaret. She was still sitting near the dance floor, watching the other couples. "I didn't do much," he said. The nurse shook her head. You gave her something she thought she had lost forever. Daniel drove home that night thinking about her words. He realized kindness doesn't always require money. It doesn't require a grand gesture or a perfect speech. Sometimes kindness is 5 minutes. Sometimes it is sitting beside someone. Sometimes it is listening to a story you've never heard before. And sometimes, kindness is simply saying yes when someone asks, "Would you dance with my grandma?" 3 weeks later, Daniel received a phone call. It was the nurse. Her voice was quiet. "Grandma passed away this morning." Daniel closed his eyes. For a moment, he couldn't speak. Then the nurse said something he would remember for the rest of his life. "She talked about your dance every day." Daniel wiped his eyes. "She said you made her feel young again." The following weekend, Daniel returned to the hospital. The nurse handed him a small envelope. Inside was a photograph of Margaret and Daniel dancing. On the back, Margaret had written a few words. "Thank you for giving me one more dance." Daniel kept that photograph. Years later, he still carried it in his wallet. Whenever life became too busy, whenever he felt tempted to ignore someone who needed a little kindness, he looked at Margaret's picture. And he remembered. We often think our actions have to be big to matter. They don't. A smile can matter. A conversation can matter. Holding someone's hand can matter. One song can matter. You never know what someone is carrying inside their heart. The person sitting alone might be missing someone. The person who looks fine might be fighting loneliness. The stranger who seems invisible might be waiting for someone to notice them. So the next time someone asks for a little kindness, don't be too busy to give it. Because Daniel thought he was dancing for one song. Margaret thought she was getting one last dance. But neither of them knew that one small moment would become a memory worth carrying for the rest of their lives. Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness becomes someone's most unforgettable moment. So look around. Notice people. Listen. And when you have the chance to make someone's day a little brighter, take it. You might think you're giving them only a few minutes. But to them, you might be giving them a memory they'll treasure forever.